You don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
Okay, so here we have Joe Rogan buying the rhetoric, just like seems like most of the people that are disagreeing with what's going on. Since when have the Democrats ever been honest with us? What makes you think that they're being honest now? And what about the uproar about all the American lives that were taken away by these immigrants? And may I remind you, it's the states that have stopped cooperating with ICE to begin with. None of this would have happened if they just cooperated. But no, let's turn it around on the Republicans, the racist Republicans. You know, I'm getting really tired of hearing that because it's not our fault. You made your own bed, now lie in it. I guess I got a little heated with that. But you get what I'm saying. It's frustrating. It's just frustrating watching these lies and this violence that never had to happen. And if Trump has to go in there and stop it before it gets worse, then do that. Make an example. And when you put yourself in danger, like, I mean, what do you say to people who are taking selfies off of a cliff? Oh, that's a great idea. Why don't you do that? No, you tell them you could yourself. Same when you deal with police and you plan on not listening to them. Let's keep listening.
Hold out, I mean, while screaming, I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm a U.S. citizen, because they look Latino and they were Latino. That is un-American and unacceptable, and good for Joe Rogan for standing up and denouncing it. More of Trump supporters, if they want him to be a good president, should be doing the same.
Let me play what he said about the Renee Good video that we've been discussing. Listen.
It's complicated, obviously, but it's also very ugly. To watch someone shoot a U.S. citizen, especially a woman, in the face, when people say it's justifiable because the car hit him, it seemed like she was kind of turning the car away.
Now, Joe, what was really striking to me about this Quinnipiac poll, 53% said it was unjustified for the ICE agent to shoot Renee Good. But I was also really surprised by how this has penetrated. 82% of registered voters say they saw that video. So you're talking almost universal impressions of what happened there. Is it, I don't know, are Republicans misreading the situation or risking misreading the situation?
Look, if anyone saw the last segment, right, I had no problem defending the officer, and I think Joe Rogan's factually wrong about his assessment. But I am a big Joe Rogan fan, and I listen all the time. And he is really emblematic of one of the most successful things Trump did in the campaign. It was to engage podcasters and win a lot of people who listen to that type of forum. I have a conversation in my head with Joe Rogan for hours every week. I'm a big fan, right? I talk to him. So when I hear him challenging something that I believe, or my gut reaction to something, I actually listen to him. So I do think this is a problem for Trump because I think he is a very good barometer of where people stand. Again, this instant, he might be factually wrong on. I think he is. But he is a good barometer of where a lot of Trump supporters are. And I would have, you know how they have the Waffle House indicator for a hurricane? Like if the Waffle House is closed, there should be a Joe Rogan indicator.
All right, with us now, CNN political commentators Karen Finney and David Urban. And friends, what I'd like to do is not relitigate the video or the events. I actually want to talk about how they're landing in comments like the ones David just made by Joe Rogan, who seems to be saying, I support the president's immigration effort notionally. I do not like what I'm seeing on the ground, though, he seems to be saying. How pervasive do you think that opinion is?
Yeah, John, listen, I think it is very pervasive, right? Americans overwhelmingly voted, one of the president's strongest suits, Americans overwhelmingly voted for this president, if you look at the numbers and reasons given, to secure the border and crack down on kind of the sieve that was the border under the Biden administration. And this administration effectively sealed that border up and did that. And then the president promised to go after the bad hombres and the drug dealers and get those people out of America. and there's a lot of support for that in America. What there isn't support for, and the polling bears this out. This isn't David Urban's opinion. This is the polling. It bears out that people do not want to see what you're seeing on your screen right now. They do not want to hear what Joe Rogan is saying. They don't want to see masked men geared up like Delta Force walking down the streets of America, asking people for their papers, throwing them on the ground, zip tying people who are doing sheetrock, gardeners, nannies. They don't want to see that, right? That's not what they voted for. And so it is really hurting this president in the numbers on an area where he was strongest, on immigration, strongest. Now it's becoming a weaker point. Karen knows this. President Obama deported lots of folks, but he did it in a completely different way. The Obama administration grabbed lots of folks who just came across the border, people who hadn't really integrated themselves in the communities, hadn't become people's neighbors. And surprisingly or not surprisingly, people don't like it when ICE shows up in their neighborhood and take away people that they have relationships with. The Obama administration was very effective because...
Okay, I had to pause it here. The reason why ICE and possibly the military is in control and things are getting out of hand, it's not because of Trump. It's not because of how he's doing it. Democrats didn't have this resistance. I mean, Biden might have sent some people back, but he let a whole lot more in. This is exactly what they wanted. They want something to look like, the people who are getting what they want are causing force for no reason. And that's clearly not true. You don't see the violence on TV. You don't see them smashing Fed cars and taking their guns. You don't see that. Of course, I know the media isn't reporting on that. But don't you have ears and eyes to maybe, and I'm not talking about you, the listener, I'm talking about these Democrats. Like, hello, how retarded do you have to be? Honestly, it gets me so fired up. I should probably take a break from politics if I want to get my blood pressure down.
They snatch people didn't really know. And in this case, neighborhoods see this happening and they don't like it. And so I think the tactics need to be addressed. It's just factually true, Karen.
It's not just that. Well, you don't even know what I'm about to say, David. So why don't you let me talk? It's not just that this idea that somehow there's a difference between, it's not just taking people that people know. It is the violence. It is the terrorizing of communities. There's a story in U.S.
Who is encouraging the violence? Who's encouraging people to go against the government and have these protests? You're pointing the finger in the wrong direction is what I'm having a problem with.
Say today, a couple was getting back from a cruise. They're in Miami. The ICE or border protection comes into their cabin, hauls them out. The gentleman of the couple, they're both American citizens. He's a Coast Guard veteran. I mean, it's the violence that people are really reacting.
I may take somebody from the left seriously if they were willing to admit their wrongs. Like, what about the violence that the immigrants did cause? Where's their hollering about that? Not even, just crickets. If I can have one Democrat admit that these immigrants are causing more harm than not. Anyway, back to the video.
And David is right. I mean, this is really, people are very aware of this story, and they're very aware of other stories where they're seeing this armed militia essentially acting as though Americans have no rights. We have the right to ask someone to see their badge, who they are. But these ICE officials are acting as though you don't have that right, and they're smashing car doors, ripping people out of their cars, even when individuals are saying, wait, I'm an American citizen. Let me get my ID. That is part of it's about the way they are conducting this, far beyond, it's not just taking nannies and taking day laborers. It is now, and we saw an American citizen get shot in the face. So it's as traumatizing, frankly, as the George Floyd murder was so many years ago.
I do want to know, I think you guys are agreeing basically here. So let's just take a minute to acknowledge that, even as, maybe it started off as a treatment. But, let me just put up some of the numbers that David Urban was talking about here. Do you think the Minneapolis shooting was justified? Justified 35%, not justified 53%. That's according to a brand new Quinnipiac poll. And then approval of ICE in general, approve 40%, disapprove 57%. And once again, I go back to just the idea in the culture now, even among people who may be more supportive of the goals here. Zach Bryan has a brand new album out, the biggest country singer there is practically, fills stadiums. And I just don't know Zach Bryan's politics one way or another, but he comments on things being too woke, plenty. He's got this line in this song. The song's been out for a while, but it was just released in the album. I just want to play it right now.
House is gonna come, bust down your door. Try to build a house, no one builds no more. But I got a telephone. Kids are all scared and home.
So who is this on, David? Who needs to change this, David, if it is a problem?
John, I think this needs to start at the top. I think the president needs to be aware or made more aware that maybe the numbers are going to play it out. They'll continue to have polling that shows that the American people don't like this. Listen, when you lose Joe Rogan, right, you got a problem. And I hope the White House takes this to heart, that people don't want to see this type of behavior from ICE. Listen, everybody wants to get the bad guys out of our country. Everybody wants to fix the immigration crisis in America. But what is playing out in the streets, to Karen's point, across America, is not something that seems American, right? And the people who came here illegally, we need to deport them, but there's a way to do that. And it doesn't appear that the current situation is making things better. And listen, we've got midterms coming up. Do you think that anybody who's watching this thinks that Republicans should get more power or less power? And these things all are super important for the administration to take into account. I think it needs to be dialed back. I think they should take this. We can still enforce the laws and have strict immigration control, but do it in a different manner.
Well, there you have it, folks. The crazy rhetoric of the left. And later tonight, I will post a more sane narrative. So hopefully check in for that. Hit like and subscribe. And I'll see you all soon. Bye.